Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Gunnar Eichler, founder and head coach of Intensity Endurance. And today we're going to talk about the origin story of Intensity Endurance. Um, and we'll start with why. Why did I create it? And I think it was first because I just was tired of racing for teams I didn't feel connected to. When I first started triathlon in college, I loved racing for it to be in my triathlon team. It was great. I loved the people around me, fantastic community, and quite frankly, was one of the best decisions I've ever made joining that team. And then after college, I spent 1 year racing for like a brand ambassador team. And I met a couple people, but it was just, there wasn't a real community about it. And then I went to the Full Send triathlon team, and, you know, I worked hard to get on that team because they were a big deal at the time, and still didn't really feel any connection, any drive. And I met a couple people through that team, but overall it was just very, you know, just a group of people, not a team. And um, in the spring of 2020, one of my best friends came to me and wanted to do an Ironman. And, Jake Johnson was then the first person, and really the catalyst to start this team. And then my other best friend, Lucas Hidalgo, he decided he was going to buy a bike and get into it. And that was the founding of it, was just, you know what? Why don't we make something out of this? And, you know, I started coaching the two of them, and it was, first initially just a team of people, but then it became, if you're going to be on the team, I'm going to coach you. And so it was like genuinely just, grassroots, and it grew from there. And other friends from college decided that, you know, they wanted some coaching, I want to be involved, and it kind of grew to 5 or 6 people, and we all just really felt connected to it. And from there, it's grown, probably upwards of 20 people have come in and out at some point, but I think, 90% of them would say that it's just been a great environment and good people to be around. And that's all that I wanted. I, wanted that feeling that everyone was, fairly close to at least a group of people on the team. And, you know, they would go actually talk outside of the team chat and go do rides together, train together, and just genuinely build a community inside of the team, similar to like what you see in a college team where everyone's at the same school. And here, people are spread worldwide. Well, I think everyone's back in the US now, but, you know, nationwide in the US. And it's just, it still has the same feeling that it did before, like when everyone is in one place. So I think that was why I wanted to start this. And it was more of feeling like I was part of a bigger community within triathlon. And then the coaching came second. And now, it's coaching. And if you want to do the coaching, don't have an interest in wearing the intensity endurance kit or being a part of it, that's great. That's fine. But if you want to be a part of it, you have to do the coaching. And so that's kind of where it's at now. And, so far it's just been everything that I wanted it to be. And I don't want to lose that going forward. And then we can go on why the name, why intensity endurance. Well, this is the very first shirt, but it started as intensity triathlon because we were all triathletes. But it's genuinely the same as my coaching principles, which we'll get into in a little bit. And I'm sure you probably already know the essence of just train with high intensity focus, make that your base training, make that everything you need, because that's what's going to get you faster. And it's just kind of the antithesis of what most people do. It's not anti-zone 2, but it's zone 2 later. It's not anti-aerobic work, but it's aerobic work later. And that is really everything that I wanted it to be. And so when you look at intensity endurance and you see the name stick out, it's like, yeah, because the process of training sticks out. And I think the name was pretty easy because I just like that high intensity training. And it's like, this is what we're going to do to be good at the sport, whether it's running, swimming, cycling, triathlon as a whole. Like, we're going to do high intensity base work to make sure that we can improve year on year, month on month. And the name is stuck. Outside of changing from triathlon to endurance, the name is stuck. And I wanted to make that change because I was coaching more than just triathletes, and there were more than just triathletes as part of the team, just to broaden that spectrum. And then I guess next we'll get into the colors. And the yellow and orange, from what I've always advertised, is just colors I didn't see much on the race course. They stuck out. I mean, the first kit was this bright yellow that faded into a bright orange, and you could pick it out from 100 miles away. It was just the most standout kit on the race course. It was the most recognizable kit any race that we did. But to really get into it, the colors were a lot deeper than that. And it's goes back to starting triathlon was a journey for me back into enjoying sports, but also enjoying a community, and in a time where my mental health was really suffering. And there is, the color yellow is often associated with depression awareness, suicide awareness. And I wasn't at that point, but I think that stands for something greater of like, it kind of encompasses everyone that's struggling with something, right? And that yellow color stands for that suicide awareness. And that's what I wanted to make the base of the kit. And I think it just meant a lot more to me because I wanted this team to kind of, again, replicate what I had in college, and a group that helped pull me out of a really dark place and, kind of restabilize me and make sport and life and everything healthy again. They looked after me, and I wanted to provide that type of support and community to a lot more athletes. And so it was much deeper than just, I want to be a selling point on the race course. It was something that had a lot of genuine meaning to me. And that even goes into, and you don't see it on this, but you'll see it on our new kits, like what the actual logo looks like. And, it's just it's a lot sleeker, but it's that dragon that you see. It's on all of our kits. It's been on our kits for a couple of years now. My lovely fiance Claire designed this logo, and the text that we started with, even back to the original, was just block text so you could read it. That was, didn't want anything fancy, no fancy fonts, and so we kind of made it look a little bit sleeker here. Big bold intensity, nice sleek lowercase endurance. But the dragon actually comes from, there's a Bryce Vine song called Love is a Blessing. And in that song, there's a line, and it kind of encapsulated a little bit more, again, back to those mental struggles. And I'll put that song in, or that one line in here of chubby kid with glasses and bleeding hair, long battles with dragons and water there. And so, it's the kid that fought long battles with dragons that weren't there. And a lot of times we talk about those mental challenges being demons. And I think with that, it's kind of hard to really conceptualize what that means. But when I heard this song for even the first time, like 10 years ago now, it's that line of assimilating it to dragons that weren't there instead of demons is like, you can picture that, And so I think adding the dragon to it, and it's always been there, even though it's never been on our kits back in the early days, but the dragon logo was kind of behind everything. It just made sense. So I think not only that, but it looks pretty cool. So it's uh it's all a bit twofold of, there's a real deep meaning to why I chose what I chose when creating this team. But then there's also just, you go on a race course, you see our athletes, it's it's cool. So it works both ways. And so I think we can kind of, that's the establishment of why the look is what it is. And then, the last bit would be the genuine, what is the process? And I spoke about it a lot. If you go any of my social media channels, you'll hear all about it. And I mentioned it earlier. It is put your base in your high intensity training. And I'm talking VO2 max and above. It's work on that genuine top end speed and push the boundaries of what your body can do from a speeds perspective. And I don't mean months and months and months of speed training like you're an 800 runner, but I do mean a good chunk of weeks in the off season and really focus on getting faster, developing that anaerobic capacity, develop your VO2 max, and now take it. Because if you can take your 800 from 3 minutes down to 2:30 and think about what we can do for your mile, and then think about what we can do for a half marathon off the bike across the season. So, rather than trying to, push that threshold from a 7 minute pace to a 6:45, think about really taking that top end and making it so much faster. And now your ceiling is that much higher. So instead of raising the floor, we're raising the ceiling first. And then we raise the floor as much as we can, go to the off season, rinse and repeat. And when you get to a certain point, like a lot of the top end pros, and, even where I was as a professional on the bike, on the run, not as much, but the bike and swim, I was, as good, if not better than a lot of the pros at anything 2 minutes and below, maybe 5 minutes and below. I mean, on the swim, not one of the best, but I was pretty good. And then on the bike, I mean, when you're looking at a 2 minute power, probably around 600 watts, you know, like I didn't need to work on that anymore. I just needed to work on the aerobic base. So you think about, what is someone's goal? If someone's goal is to get to Kona and they're not in any way capable of getting there at this point in time, maybe have that 5 year goal to get to Kona, and then really work on that speed for the first couple of years. And then you take those last 2 to 3 and you're like, okay, now we know we're fast enough. We know we're fast enough. We just have to now get fit enough. And it's a lot more sustainable way of training. It takes a lot less hours out of the day. And for a lot of people, not everyone, for a lot of people, it's a lot more enjoyable. And then, you really get fast enough. Now you're like, aerobic base is all we need to do to add, our durability on top of the speed. So I think, and again, when I coach people, it's dependent person to person. Not everybody is going to get the same schedule, the same timeline, the same exact training. I mean, I could have one person who's like, I want to do an Ironman in 4 years and I want to be as fast as I can for it. And I say, great, let's do 3 years of making you as fast as you can, up to 20 minutes in each. The fastest 1500 swimmer, the fastest 5K runner, the highest power you can put out for 20 minutes on the bike. And then we'll use that last year to just make you unbreakable. And so it depends on what the individual's goals are, what the timeline looks like for those goals. But I always preach speed first, fitness later. And that is intensity endurance in a nutshell. Thank you for listening. And if you need a coach and you want to join an awesome group of people, reach out. We'll have a talk about it. Thank you. Have a nice.